Hope is that you fly and you go and you take a little bit of time off, you go on vacation. I think there's just this big misconception that as business owners, we constantly have to be grinding in our businesses 60, 70 hours a week. Listen, and I get it. You have to do it in the beginning. But I think ultimately why we become entrepreneurs is to get a little bit of that owner freedom. And so I think, again, there's that misconception. And when we do get to that spot, we don't even know what to do with ourselves.
Welcome back to the Retirement Fiduciary Podcast, a place where we have authentic, no BS discussions about retirement planning, investment strategies, and wealth management. Whether you're approaching retirement or if you've already made work optional, this show is for you. Now, here's your host, Adam Koos, President, Portfolio Manager, and Senior Financial Advisor at Libertas Wealth Management Group at libertaswealth.com.
I appreciate you guys all coming back to the Retirement Fiduciary Podcast. Today's guest is Tiffany Helton. She's an operational scaling and profit strategy expert who helps founder-led businesses become more efficient, more profitable, and less dependent on the owner. Tiffany brings more than 15 years of experience scaling service-based businesses, including co-founding a hospitality group that grew to more than 90 employees. Her background also includes executive leadership roles as a VP and Chief Operating Officer, along with building a successful coaching company focused on helping business owners improve operational efficiency and profitability. Today, Tiffany works with founders to simplify operations, improve accountability, create stronger teams, and turn complicated financial data into clear insights that support lean and sustainable growth. Today's conversation, what we're going to be doing is talking about how operational bottlenecks get in our way, founder dependency and why it's a problem, scaling challenges, profitability, and what business owners should be thinking about if they want to build a business that can truly operate without them. Tiffany, thank you so much for joining me. I've been looking forward to this one.
Oh, thank you so much, Adam, for having me. I've really been excited to do this podcast with you and just feel honored to be here with you. Thank you.
For sure. It's funny, when I look at scaling and owner dependency, I remember thinking to myself in my own business, way back when that was the goal. We create Dan Sullivan calls it a self-managing company. So basically a company that it operates without you necessarily needing to be there. Or as some people might ask, can you leave and go on a vacation off the grid for a month? What would happen to the company? And then I got there, and I want to talk about this first, because then I got there, and I got to be honest with you, for 3 weeks, I was not in a good headspace. I did not feel good at all. It was almost like you're supposed to feel all excited because you've reached the point where you've built this amazing team and everybody loves each other and you love them and they love you and things are working and you're growing and things are scaling and you're helping people and making a real impact in the world with clients, customers. But then all of a sudden it doesn't need you anymore and you start to feel kind of worthless. What do you think about that?
The hope is that you fly and you go and you take a little bit of time off, you go on vacation. I think there's just this big misconception that as business owners, we constantly have to be grinding in our businesses 60, 70 hours a week. Listen, and I get it. You have to do it in the beginning. But I think ultimately why we become entrepreneurs is to get a little bit of that owner freedom. And so I think, again, there's that misconception. And when we do get to that spot, we don't even know what to do with ourselves.
It reminds me of the book that my friend Justin Goodbread wrote called Your Baby's Ugly. And the whole book, have you seen this book? Your Baby's Ugly?
I haven't.
The whole book is about how when you actually look at your business from the outside, from a buyer's perspective, how it's not nearly even close to ready to sell, or in other words, a buyer wouldn't even want it in most cases because there's just so much wrong with it. And the analogy is that when you have a baby, it's you never think your baby's ugly, right? Your baby's the most beautiful thing in the world, and that's what most owners think about their businesses. There's nothing wrong with it until you actually start diving in and seeing all the problems that need to be fixed in order to make things better. But we can get back into that here, but let me back up. In the intro, your career path, pretty unique, right?
Yeah.
How did you get into operations in the first place and scaling businesses? How'd that even happen?
It's interesting. In college, I worked in restaurants. Actually worked at a bar for, I think it was like 9 years. I worked at this bar when I was really young. Started when I was 18 and knew at a very early age, I wanted to run a business, right? I had a hard time working for somebody else and not being a leader. And just knew from then, how do I get out of this? How do I do my own thing? And how do I either help run somebody's company or own my own company? So started off in the hospitality industry. The path, super interesting. I am certainly the epitome of the American dream, right? Like I started bussing tables. I was a bouncer at 18 years old, soaking wet. I was probably 115 pounds,
What
but
you're
I
saying
was
is
a bouncer taking IDs. Yeah.
do not mess with you, though. That's what you're saying. Do
Yeah.
not mess with
Do
you.
not mess with me. But what I learned from that job, like I said, I worked there for 9 years and made my way all the way from starting from the bottom to general manager. And I knew at that job, they say that God puts you in a spot for a reason. I learned everything about business. I learned how to run my own business, even though I wasn't doing that at that time. I learned how to manage people. I learned what hard work was. And so taking that, moving through my career path, eventually met my business partner and opened up a chain of really successful, busy restaurants in the Northern Colorado area. And it was so rewarding, so hard, so challenging, all of the things, but just so grateful for that experience and just really put that hard work in to get there.
That's such, I don't want to call it, I don't want to disparage the industry, but it's not a family-friendly job. You're
Oh,
working
no.
nights, weekends. When everybody else is at work, there might be a couple hours in there where things get busy during the week, but otherwise, your busiest time is when everybody else is done with work, right? That had to be tough.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's tough. I did most of that work when I was younger before I had a family. Owning restaurants, great and so rewarding, but like you said, it's not conducive to the family environment. Mom's not home at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock to make dinner. That just doesn't really exist. That's when the restaurants get busier. So we grew those three, scaled and grew to three. And then during that COVID time, just started selling off assets and realizing that, hey, there's just a different way to do this. And still grateful. There's still one here in Old Town Fort Collins that is beautiful, and I'm fortunate to still have equity shares in that, which is really nice. But it's different sometimes, Adam. It's you grow it and you scale it and you get to this point. It's so rewarding, but it also is life-changing, and you realize that your priorities are different. I don't want to work till 10 o'clock at night anymore. And this isn't going to be my number one focus and my number one priority anymore.
What did it teach you about, think before and after? So you're getting into it, you're starting to grow it. Maybe there comes a point where you're realizing scaling is what your ultimate goal is, and then you start doing that. One of the things I've realized is that once you get to scaling, the next step for owners is to figure out the leadership equation. So what did that all teach you about leadership?
Yeah, leadership is hard. I think you can figure out a way to clone yourself as the owner. That's the ultimate goal, right? That's tough because I feel like nobody really buys into your business like you do. That being said, and I work with business owners all the time on this specific area of Cultivate, is how do we set up guardrails, right? To protect the business, to protect the brand, to protect the service, to protect all what we're doing so well in our business, even if maybe the leadership, they might be great and successful, or maybe they make mistakes, right? And they're not optimal leaders like we thought they were. From my perspective, it's all about guardrails, right? And setting your business up for success, and then obviously fostering leadership. My favorite stories of the best leaders are the ones that we foster, right, within the system versus maybe somebody that we hire out to join our leadership team. I feel like those are usually the best leaders that we're farming up within.
Mm-hmm. It's like they've been there, they've done that, they understand the culture of the company. I heard this the other day, by the way, I keep repeating this over and over again. Shelby at Muriel Consulting said that when she talks to financial advisors in particular, so this is specific to financial advisory firms, but that she doesn't like to talk about culture anymore. She talks about the company personality because you can't pronounce culture without cult.
Well, that puts a whole new spin on it.
It's hilarious. Now I can't even say the word culture anymore without thinking that, unfortunately. But anyway, so as you started working with more founders, what were some of the biggest, call it, I don't know, operational pain points that you keep seeing or kept seeing over and over again?
Yeah. Fast forward here. So now I work at Cultivate Advisors, helping business owners really do exactly what you say, right? So how do we become a healthier business operationally? How do we work on that culture, right?
Nice.
How do we work on the leadership of the things? Yeah, thank you. But just to make our businesses more successful, really.
Earlier, we were talking about owner dependency, founder dependency. What are some, when you think operations and mistakes, I hesitate to say regrets, because in a perfect world, none of us really regret anything, right?
Yeah.
I've got this big, huge sign on my fridge here in the office that says, "Are no mistakes, only lessons." So I think we want
Yeah.
to always
Yeah.
look at things like that. But what are some of the maybe biggest operational mistakes that you've seen these founder-led businesses make?
Boy, that's a tough question. As far as it relates to just owner dependency, I would say doing those $20 an hour tasks, right? $10 an hour tasks, whatever it is that you can hire an admin for. AI can do everything now.
Touche. Yeah.
And I find that when I get into somebody's business with them, the first thing I do is, hey, map me out everything that you do in a day. I have some owners telling me, I do the scheduling, I do the QuickBooks, right? And it's, do you actually need to be doing those tasks? Or should you really be thinking about growing your company revenue wise? Or my favorite, actually increasing your net profit,
Yeah.
which to me is better than actually just trying to grow your revenue. And so just helping think about it in a different way. Or they tell me, I haven't taken a vacation in a year. Okay, why are you answering the phones in your business? Okay,
Right.
let's pay somebody to do that so you can go take a vacation. Let's put some guardrails there.
Yeah.
How do we set people up for success while you're not there or you're not running that task or operation? A lot of times, though, no fault of their own, because I was the same way. You need somebody else to come in and look at your business in a different way, right?
Yep.
You've been in your business now for how many years, and you get stuck in that tunnel vision. And a lot of times it takes one person to say, hey, have you tried it this way?
Yeah. I think it's
Have
so
you
much
thought
like,
about it?
to me, like the analogy that I use, and this doesn't work for everybody, but I've got two, but they're about the same. It's, I'm no artist. Like, you would not want me to paint a picture for you, that's for sure. But it's, if you paint something or draw something and you're creating something, sculpture, and you're trying to finish it up and you just can't seem to get creative enough, or your brain is so stuck at looking at that same thing every day, all day long. The one that is in my experience, like I have a music studio in my basement that I haven't used in forever, but I would start making a track and I would start with the bass line and then throw in the kick and the snare and I'd throw in strings, and before, like, what's it missing? What's it missing? But you can't get out of it because you're so stuck in song. I know obviously it's a whole lot smaller scale analogy than running a business, but I think my experience was growing up in this company, founding my company. It's almost like the first aha moment was to realize that I can't just push the throttle forward, because eventually you're just out of gas. Like, there's just no more throttle pushed. You need more who's instead of more how's. And that's so interesting, because a lot of the companies that we see when we're doing our business transition and exit planning is exactly what you said. It's like they're doing their own QuickBooks, but worse. And it's no fault of their own, because they've never been trained on QuickBooks, but their books look terrible. You can't even use them for anything. There's things that are missing. They're categorized wrong. They might even be missing certain deductions, like meals and entertainment include all kinds of stuff that are like in-office meals and seminar expenses, or would be 100% deductible, and they're not now. But you talk a lot about founder dependency. What does it mean to you? If you were to list out like all the ways that you can think of off the top of your head, if somebody who's listening or watching this right now thinks, well, what does it mean? Like, how would I know if I'm dependent, like I'm a problem within my company?
Yeah. And again, I want to set this up too, just really quickly, Adam, is everybody usually is in this spot, right? So if you're listening now and you're like, hey, I'm a business owner and this is just really ringing true to me, it's everybody, right? It's not just a few. Everybody gets to this spot. And I think the biggest question I ask is, can I remove you? If I remove you from your business, what's going to happen? Because here's the thing is, if you go to sell, or you get acquired, private equity, whatever situation it is, right? How do we remove you from this? Is your business successful if I remove you? I think if the answer is no, you have to set it up in a way where it is, right? And whether that's systems, leadership, right? Whatever it might be, it's got to withstand itself without you. It cannot, it's not a healthy business if it's owner dependent. What if something happens to you? I'm sure that's just with your industry. Death, divorce, disability, anything can happen, right? Yep. We don't want to think about that, but anything can happen at any time. You go get in a car accident. You love your Harley, right? You love riding your Harley. Something happens to you. Who's going to take over your business? Have you even thought about it? Mm-hmm. You have to think about it. You really do. And then just setting yourself up that, okay, if something did happen to me, here's exactly how we would handle this situation and my team would be fine. Mm-hmm. Right? If you're going to sell your business, it's the same play. right?
Yeah.
And so just thinking about it again, just from a different angle, it's just smarter. It may take a lot of work and it may take an investment to get there, but it's 100% worth it when you do.
And I think owners, maybe they care so much about their staff, I think do. I think so many of them care so much about their customers. And honestly, I think a lot of them have thought about it, but it's like in the car on
Yeah.
the way home. It's when maybe a plane on the way to vacation or something like that, but they're just not doing anything about it. And it's because they're just so
Yeah.
busy. They're so busy doing whatever
Yeah.
they're doing. And again, pushing that throttle forward. And like you said, I totally agree. Everybody's in this spot. I think that's why statistics are so important to let owners know that every time I sit across from an owner for the first time and have this discussion, I always start by saying 80% of businesses don't sell. They dissolve.
Yeah.
And then you pause
Yeah.
for a second and they go, whoa, that's crazy. And then you say, a business owner's net worth's in their company. And they look up, they always look up and reference their long-term memory and shake their head and go, yeah, it sounds like me. And then you share that 75% of the 20% that do sell are selling for less than market value. And that sucks. Like all those numbers are so awful. And it's why the things that you and I are talking about right now are so important, because there's not much that's been done in the past decade to fix this problem. And it's people are just kicking the can down the road. I'll sell later. And it's by the time something happens, it's one of those D's, right? Divorce, disability, disagreements with partners. One of those things happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you say that there's I don't know, this is probably a tough question to answer, but would you say that there's, I don't know, like a point at which an owner could say that their company's too dependent on them personally? Is there a threshold, I guess, that exists?
I don't know if necessarily there's a threshold that exists. Listen, as the owner, you need to be in your business, especially in the beginning, right? I think, like I said, there gets to a point where once you get your systems in place, once you get your leadership team in place, and you're working on the parts of your business that are growing your business or sustaining your business, where you're not a cog in that wheel, that's when things change for you. And that's when you can start to step out. And it's not even trying to start to step out to go vacation. We talk about that a lot, right? But again, it's thinking about your business in a different way and being a business owner versus being a manager of your business. Two completely different things. And Adam, I'm sure you've heard about enterprise value just in your industry. You can get a business valuation now, right? So Adam, you probably know, oh, my business is worth X amount right now. And it's just like you said, what is my business worth actually at its optimal sell price? Two different things, right? There's one way to get there. And it's by making sure that you have a good leadership team, that you're not owner dependent, your financials look good, right? That you have systems in place, all of those things, right? If we can figure out how to do your enterprise value, increasing, going to get you that ultimate price when you go to sell, right? So owner dependency is a huge part of that, because as we all know, I'm not going to come and buy your business if it's totally dependent on you, because I don't have your experience or expertise in your industry to take your business over. There's no way I could do it.
Yeah. And so I guess leads me to another question, which would be, if I'm a business owner, I am asking myself some of these questions, or hear some of the stories you and I are talking about, and maybe my company is a little bit too owner dependent. What am I risking financially, operationally?
Yeah, I think it's everything. Everybody has to think about their exit strategy at some point. Right? Whether it's, unless you have a legacy business and you want to hand it down to your family. But even at that point, which I do have some of those, and even at that point, you've got to set your kids up, right? Like, you have to extrapolate yourself from the business. You are leaving yourself at risk, it being that owner dependent, regardless of if you sell it or not, right? And so, yeah, it does leave you just exposed in a way that's just, it's not smart, right? And again, a lot of businesses do it. But again, I would challenge business owners listening right now, look at your business in a different way. What if something happens to you? Try to extrapolate yourself a little bit now by putting guardrails in place. Let's be smart about it, where it's not going to hurt operations. It's not going to hurt the brand. It's not going to hurt the customer experience. Let's just set that up now. That way you're not exposed.
Yeah. And then I love that you said that everybody has to think about exit strategy at some point. Because I'm pretty passionate about this. We're doing at our office is building the plan. So we meet an owner. We're building a business transition and exit plan, as we call it, because that is my segue. We call it BTEP, business transition and exit planning. And it takes 6 to 9 months typically to build the plan. When we're done, we've got 12 things, we call it pillars of things that we can change that will either increase the enterprise value or the multiple or both. And then we're not going to work on all 12 things. We're going to say, okay, going forward, now we're going to introduce you to a value advisor, a fractional CFO, or both. And they're going to be your personal trainer. They're going to take this diet and exercise plan, and they're going to take you to the gym. They're going to help you work out basically on your business and make these things happen. So we increase your multiple, increase your enterprise value. But our target client is people looking to sell in the next 3 to 5 years. But inevitably, we always run into people, literally on a weekly basis, that are like, I don't want to sell for 13 years. I'm not selling for 15 years. I'm not selling for 20 years. And here's what's crazy about that. And this is going to be our segue into profitability and scaling, by the way, which is if so many owners, especially younger owners, in my opinion, who are looking for that secret sauce on how to grow their business. God, what do I do next? Like, I feel like I'm stuck. I need to grow. What do I need to do next? The answer is exit planning. I know it sounds crazy, but that's the problem. I think the problem is we call it exit planning, and that's why we call it business transition and exit planning, is because exit planning is simply taking you from wherever you are today to wherever you want to be, wherever that happens to be. And in some cases, that's just more profit, better margins, things like that, less owner dependency, less customer concentration, less risk. And I just think that if you implement what we're talking about and you're not 15 years from selling, what's going to happen is you're going to have all the things that you wanted in terms of growth, and your company is going to be exponentially worth more down the road because you didn't wait until you were 2 years from ready to sell before you actually pulled the trigger and started the planning.
Yeah, that all makes sense. Here's the thing is, all of those things that you're working on, it's just like you said, even on the personal level, right? Let's say you don't even own a business, right? Even on the personal level, hey, I'm going to get everything in order for an exit, right? Again, you've set yourself up just better. It's the same thing for your business, right? All of that work that you're doing right now, it's going to naturally make your business more profitable. It's going to naturally help your business grow because you've shored up all your systems. Right? You've fixed everything internally. You've made everything better that naturally, I don't care if you're going to sell in 3 to 5 years, 15 years. I don't care if somebody tells me I'm never going to sell. That's totally fine. The work is exactly the same. And for your clients too, Adam, I would challenge them too and say, does your business actually support your personal financial goals? Right? Are those things even married together? I have a lot of clients who are totally disconnected in that way. This is what I need upon exit, upon retirement, upon whatever. Your business is not even near supporting you with that right now. Right? So it's really interesting. Again, it's just all that work though, the work that you do is naturally just going to make everything better.
The whole what's the business need to be worth thing is part of what we do with the personal financial planning, because oftentimes owners have a valuation in mind, but it's wrong. And usually it's not usually lower than it's worth. It's usually obviously maybe it's higher than it's worth. But the piece of that financial plan that says when you quit working, you've got your cash, your 401k, your brokerage assets, any retirement assets, and then the business. And the business needs to be worth X in order for you to ride off into the sunset. If it's not worth X, we got a problem. You're either going to have to save more, work longer, spend less, things that none of those things are very pleasant. But you always have to keep that in as part of the conversation. And then when it comes to all this exit planning and business transition planning stuff we're talking about, I can't reiterate more that this planning part of it is the answer to getting more profits and having more work-life balance. And it's not, I would say it's not easy, but it's simple.
Yeah, it shouldn't be overwhelming, right? Like a lot of this stuff is heavy for business owners, heavy for entrepreneurs. Oh my gosh, this is so much. Like, where do I even start? There can be like, it's like a little chihuahua when you dress them up and they sit there and they freeze up. They don't want to walk. They have their little boots and their hats on or whatever. People freeze up, get tense. And it's, why are you tense? Is it that you do your mindset and say, okay, yeah, there are things I need to work on. I haven't planned for my exit, right? No, my business doesn't support my personal financials. Okay, we'll fix it. You know, you're an entrepreneur, you're smart, you're a leader, you're a business owner, right? You're a forward thinker. Let's get everything set up in the right way and let's be at the top of our game, not just surviving. That's not the spot to be in. The spot to be in is thriving. Exit planning is part of that. It's part of setting yourself up for success now and the future.
100%. Yeah. And again, that's I think perfect segue into the whole profitability discussion, because I know that's something you're big on. But you know, a lot of businesses, they're growing revenue, and so it's not like they're doing poorly. Most owners we talk to are very successful, but they feel unprofitable, even though they're growing revenue. Gross revenue looks good, the trend looks good, but
Yeah.
it just feels chaotic and unprofitable or
Yeah.
both. Why do you feel like that happens?
From what I see, we work with clients anywhere from that $1 million mark up to $10 million, $15 million a year gross revenue. So we're talking, that's a wide range, but those are pretty healthy businesses. And a lot of times, even at that $1 million gross revenue mark or that 10, the problems can be the same, right? It's a lot of times business owners are looking at their financials, but not necessarily from a business owner lens versus the tax lens, right? Again, two completely different things. When I look at my financials as a business owner, okay, I need to look at my margins, right? I need to look at budget. How do I set budgets from those margins, right? Like I'm just looking at it from a different lens. I'm looking at cash flow from a different lens. How much inventory do I have on my shelves?
Yeah.
Right? Is that really supporting my cash flow right now? But looking at it in a different way. And there's so much growth that you can do internally that's not necessarily growing your revenue.
Right.
It's increasing that net profit. And again, I don't care if you're a $10 million business or $1 million business, everybody can work on growing that net profit, not just that revenue.
Yeah, there's a lot of waste a lot of time, and there's a lot of operational inefficiencies. And speaking of operational inefficiency, what operational changes do you feel like tend to have the biggest impact? If you were to rank them all, give me the top 2 or 3.
It's a process. So the first thing I would say is everybody should go into their books and line item by line item, look at every expense and see if you're optimizing that. I say that in a way where we're not trying to cut expenses and be cheap, right? We have to be careful about our brand, our product, whatever it is that we're doing, right? But look at every line item and say, how can I be better at this? Okay. And then from there, I would say the biggest wins that I see, Adam, are putting together budgets, right? If you have staff, you have a leadership team, and you're not a solopreneur, do you have a labor budget? Oh, or are you just saying, oh, I have X amount on salary, X amount hourly, and this just is what it is? Really, it is what it is. Do your labor budgets, and does your labor percentage actually support the revenue you're doing now? If not, there's got to be a change made.
For sure.
Okay. Now, there can be companies that are in a growth mode, right? Where sometimes we're just making a capital investment in our business to grow it. That's different, right? But we've got to have these day-to-day budgets, and we look at those on a daily, monthly, quarterly, and yearly basis to really support that net profit. I would say, though, that labor typically is the biggest win that I see just out of the gate.
It's also one of the most expensive. And
It is.
And I think that this is just a fun quiz. If you were to look at every company you've ever worked with on day one, when you first do all the intake and you start learning about the company, the owner, what percentage or how many of those owners had really clean, organized books?
Oh, what percentage? I would say, oh gosh, it's not high, maybe 20 or 30%. It's not high. And again, no fault of their own, right?
That's why I'm asking.
I think
that's why I'm asking, actually.
Yeah,
I want people that are watching and hearing this to know it's most people. Like
it's most people.
Second question. It's a piggyback. Of the 25%, but of all companies you've ever worked with, what percentage of them have a forecast that goes out 3 years?
I don't think
it's going to be zero.
Not many. Yeah. That's how we help. So it's kind of a trick question, but it's not many.
It's a loaded question. That's where it's like, whether it's a value advisor, whether it's a fractional CFO, somebody, if you're an owner and you're wondering, I'm stuck. And it doesn't matter if you're stuck at 1 million and can't figure out how to get to 2, or you're stuck at 5 and you can't figure out how to scale to 10 or 10 to 20 and so on. One of the biggest things you can do for yourself is hire a value advisor and or hire a fractional CFO to come in and clean your books up and then make them usable and then create a forecast. And then all of a sudden, what you were just talking about, Tiffany, where you're like, what's your labor budget? Who are you going to hire? When are you going to hire them? Some of the most expensive questions and most expensive decisions all of a sudden become easy. It's like, I know exactly what I can do and when I can do it. And it's so refreshing. You drive home from work and you feel different. But anyway, I digress.
I think it's just having a financial plan to support, if you're in growth mode, right? To support your growth. It's exactly what you said. It's okay, what revenue point, right? So let's say I'm going for 1 to 2 million. When I get to that 2 million mark, how many more staff members, key leaders, whatever it is, am I going to need to support that revenue growth? Let's plan for that. Let's take the unknown out, right? Listen, what is my break even point? And just let's have a plan, right? If you don't have a plan, whether it be an annual plan, a monthly plan, a daily plan, a quarterly plan, where are you going? And it was the same way in my business. And you either figure it out or you get help to do it. It's one of the two things.
I'd rather get help. My entire
Yeah.
career, I've been doing this 25 years. My entire career, I've become known amongst my closest peers in the industry that I'm the guy that goes and seeks out mentors, whether they want to help me or not, and I bother them until they help me. And then when I
Yeah.
get that help, I try things, and then my friends wait to see what works, and then they try it. I become the guinea pig. It's so much easier to reach out and get help than it is to make the same mistakes. It's just to take longer. You're just,
Yeah. Yeah.
at the end of the day, we can always make more money. We can't make more time.
Yeah, it's not even mistakes. I feel like there can be a little bit of negativity around this. It's really also positive, right? I know my business is doing X and I want to get to the next level. How do I do it responsibly?
Yeah. Be a good steward.
It doesn't have to be negative. It's doing it the right way.
Yeah. And it's going to make you happy and get you where you want to go.
Yeah.
I want to get back to something you talked about earlier, which kind of comes down to things like team accountability, leadership again. What's the difference, would you say, between just delegation, being a good delegator, and true
Yeah.
operational leadership?
Oh boy, that's tough. I would say delegating, right, is just giving things away. Okay, I know I don't want to be the scheduler in my business anymore. Okay, I know I don't want to be the person who's in receiving anymore. I know that I don't want to be doing my social media anymore. Okay, let's just delegate those tasks out. That's fine. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but how are you setting your team up, though, to make critical decisions, right? How are we setting our leaders up to really think like an owner? In the delegation space, like I just said, that's not really happening, right? It goes to what I said earlier, which is cloning yourself, right? Good owners and leaders, right? They foster other good leaders. Okay.
Yeah.
I want my leaders to make decisions like I make. I want them to think how I think. Really, the only way to do that is to delegate, but having them critically think through problems, through growth, through financials, expose them to that. Give them an opportunity to think like you. And a lot of times they will,
Permission, right?
but yeah. And a lot of times we're scared, right? We're like, we don't want to pull a veil off of our financials with our leadership team. We're scared. Why are you scared?
And they're scared. They need that permission and the authority to do those things so that you don't have to. They're terrified to do it until you give them that permission.
Yeah. And let's teach them, right? Let's teach them and understand metrics. Let's understand what good service is. Let's have discussions on maybe product-based business, right? Is my product the best product out there? Let's have discussions with our leaders, okay? If not, you tell me how we can do a better job. You tell me what's best, and let's collaborate. Let's not just delegate, let's collaborate, and let's foster good leaders in our company.
Yeah. And why do you think, I'm curious, just from a behavioral standpoint, we'll call it, why do you feel like so many owners struggle to let go of control and delegate?
I think a lot of it's, this is my baby.
Yep. Back to the baby again.
Back to the baby again. I'm afraid to let my baby go, or there's going to be a mistake. There's going to be a problem. But I would challenge you, if you're thinking that way, and say, what didn't we set up, whether it be systems or people, that were nervous, right? Let's put those guardrails in place and then let them fly. You have to. They're going to make mistakes, whether it be your leadership team, whoever. They're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
We have to understand that and then critically think and work through those things.
I think that one of the things you said earlier was so important. In fact, I think it was one of the best ways we as business advisory professionals can help owners and founders get better at delegating, becoming true leaders, and scaling their companies is when you mentioned what they're spending their time on.
Yeah.
there's this slide I have that when I get on stage and I do a presentation, it talks about like how much you want, backing into it. I trick everybody. I trick the crowd by saying, well, how much do you want to make? And it's, let's just say you want to net $480,000 a year. So net take home. You got to divide that by 60%, right? To get gross number, that's 1,000 gross. If we take that 52 weeks by 4 days a week, that's 208 days. If we take that 208 days and we subtract 20 holidays, we're down to 188 days. Let's just say we take 35 vacation days. And that includes going someplace, staying at home, staycations. We're down to 153 days. And let's just say we're business owners. We don't work 8-hour days. We work 10-hour days. So 153 days times 10 hours a day is 1,530 days. $800,000 gross per year divided by 1,580 hours a year is $523 an hour. Going back to what you said earlier, when you answer the phone and when you manage your schedule and schedule an appointment on your own, when anything you're doing, when you write what you do all day, is it $523 an hour work or not?
Yeah. It's funny you've dialed it down to that. And that's so smart, Adam. It's so smart because, again, helping business owners think of it in that way, it's just different.
That's right.
And I've got a wonderful client who I'm working with right now, and we're doing that exact task. It's you write down everything you're doing in a day.
Yeah.
And you tell me in this whole list, what do you actually need to be doing? And what can you actually get off your plate and have a leader do who's totally capable of doing? You have a great leadership team. They're totally capable of doing a lot of this stuff. And what do you actually need to keep and preserve right now?
Yeah.
Okay, because that really does matter to the core of the business. There's going to be stuff, but let's get that off of your plate. Let's not be scared to do it. Let's put guardrails around it. And like you said, let's think about this on an hourly wage basis, right? Is it netting you the $500 an hour? If it's not, get it off.
Get it out of here. Well, just to change gears and flip the script around, I'm going to turn the tables around here real quick. When you think from a buyer's perspective, so think about now you're the buyer, right? What are buyers or even investors, private equity firms, strategic buyers, what are they looking for, you think, operationally when they're looking at a company, when they're evaluating whether or not to buy a company?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It depends on your industry. Obviously, that net profit's going to be extremely important. Your gross revenue is going to be important. Your systems are important. If you have monthly recurring revenue, that is a huge enticing factor. Maybe you have an HVAC company and you have recurring memberships, monthly memberships that you have X amount of revenue coming in every month. A lot of that's pretty attractive to buyers. But again, it's just a healthy, financially healthy company that has good margins, that's operationally well run, that typically somebody can plug and play, right? Either it's their team or themselves as the owner, or they can take it and scale it too. So I think either of those really is the best situation.
That all makes sense. And let's because I just realized we've been talking for quite a while here. This has been too much fun apparently, but let's wrap up here with one more question. A business owner wants more freedom, and they want more freedom, flexibility, work-life balance over the next few years. And they're listening to this going, man, where do I start? Where do they start? In your opinion, what's the first thing they should do?
I would say just get more information and just be open to thinking about your business in a different way. Like I said, we at Cultivate, we do just a free 2-hour advising session and we evaluate your business in the way that you and I just talked about, Adam. It's all of those enterprise value drivers, my leadership team, my financials, my marketing, all of it. I would say go do that. See how your business fares. Let's pull that veil off and see where I'm exposed and where I'm excelling and doing well. But again, first steps is just be open to thinking about your business in a different way. Be open to stepping out of the grind that you've been in and start to plan for your business to be successful, whether that's a sale, an exit, or just maybe more profitable.
We have a company that we helped that was, the owner was depressed, literally depressed, down in the dumps, stuck, tired of the business, tired of the industry, wanted to quit, and but the company wasn't worth enough to sell to where he could retire. It wasn't there yet. And after going through this whole planning process, it wasn't even the money, it wasn't the profitability, the margins, it wasn't revenue going up quickly over the next couple of years that was awesome. Don't get me wrong, that was great. It was the feeling him being reinvigorated in the business and all of a sudden excited and then hiring somebody. So going from like hating the business and not wanting to do it anymore and just being done to all of a sudden being reinvigorated again. That's the real life example. But the analogy is like everybody probably listening to this or watching this has probably sold a house. And you have the realtor come in and they go, okay, take all these pictures down here, declutter this, replace that carpet, paint these walls. And then you do it and you're like, I like it here.
Why didn't you do that when you were living there the whole time? You had the opportunity. Let's do it. Nice while we're living in it.
Exactly. It's a lesson. It's a metaphor, but it's a lesson for every business owner that by putting off exit planning till later, instead think of it like business transition planning. Work on these things now so that you can exponentially grow and have all the things that a seller would have, but a self-managing company, right?
Yeah, no, it's a different way of thinking. And let's challenge ourselves as business owners. We're smart, right? We're forward thinkers. Let's challenge ourselves and let's set ourselves up in a way that's successful.
Yeah, and that's the mission, right? There's so many people out there that need this help and most of them don't even know they need the help. That's what's crazy.
Yeah.
We got to do this again sometime because this was too much fun. So thank you so much for joining, hanging out with me. There are links, contact information for Tiffany is going to be in the show notes. So if you'd like to get a hold of her, just either hit up the show notes or reach out to us and we'll make it a connection. And as I always say, there's, God, these days, thousands of podcasts out there, and you chose to give ours a listen or a watch today. So thank you so much for listening or watching in, and we'll see you next time.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you like a second opinion on your retirement plan or investment strategy, please head over to libertaswealth.com. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as legal, financial, tax, or as a basis for investment decisions. Always consult a certified financial planner or a fee-only fiduciary advisor before acting on any ideas discussed.